Okay, it has been several eclipses and cosmological phenomena later, so I guess it's time that I actually write a script again. So let's talk about something that, again, I am years late to getting to the cutting edge of. That being the Vital Hero series of exercise-adjacent Digivice toys slash wristwatch. Did you know that these only got debuted in Australia as of 2024? So in a very niche way, this review is actually somewhat timely. By the time we're done here today, I will hopefully have explained if this is something you might want to buy or not. So let's get into it. Let's start with the physical structure of the watch itself. The first thing to note is the Western release of the Vital Hero Digivices have wrist straps that are a tiny bit longer than their Japanese counterparts, which, while not entirely necessary, was a nice and thoughtful touch for us fatties in the West. The second thing that stood out to me the very first time I opened it was the body of the watch is actually larger than I expected it would be. All the electronic bits have to be centered here in the face of the watch, giving it a top-to-bottom measurement of about 3/4 of an inch. Yeah, if you're not used to wearing a watch, you're definitely going to be banging this thing on corners and furniture as you pass by. There are face protectors for this thing, but we'll get to those in a little bit. On the bottom of the face is a green laser, which, according to the instruction booklet, is used to track your pulse. I don't know how accurate this thing actually is, but I have my suspicions it must not be. There's two buttons and a built-in rubber plug for the power source because this thing USB charges rather than relying on watch batteries. So there is that. On the opposite side is a plastic plug used to block up the DIMM slot. What's a DIMM? We'll get to that momentarily. Let's touch on the screen first, as I kind of left that for last. The screen itself is smaller than I expected, but it's a crisp, clear, and colorized digital display. The information is laid out pretty simply, and you can tab around the information using the two buttons on the side. This works pretty well. Functionally, the watch is supposed to be a fitness tracker. It has a built-in pedometer, which seems to work reasonably well, and the pulse tracker, which, as said, really doesn't. It seems to just always lock it to 60 beats per minute and never changes no matter what I'm doing. Paradoxically, it tracks this on a per-day basis, and it retains no records past that point. There's no master step counter, there's no average heart rate tracker, not even a number of Digimon raised counter. Ultimately, the reset button on the watch serves only to delete a Digimon you're unhappy with, since nothing else is actually tracked. Lastly, as I almost forgot, the watch has a near-field communication, or NFC, functionality. If you take the watch out of sleep mode and put it near an NFC-enabled device, it'll spawn a battle for your Digimon. More on this later, but I thought I'd go ahead and mention that, as it is a function of the watch. Right, before I forget, it tells time. It is, in fact, a watch. Alright, so that's the hardware side out of the way. Let's get to how this thing actually works. The Digivice actually doesn't have any Digimon on it, at least not by default. All the Digimon are stored in DIMM cards, these little proprietary USB-looking things that I have scattered out here. Now, a real quick aside, there is the newer version of the Vital Hero in Japan called the BE, which uses another type of card too, but imports are expensive and I work full-time, so I just don't have time to fight this kind of thing. It is odd that Bandai decided to bring out the middle iteration and nothing else. However, it's also worth mentioning that Japanese DIMMs do work on Western Vital Hero bracelets, just that the Digimon's name will be displayed in Japanese text instead of English. Anyway, each bracelet comes with a starter DIMM. I got Greymon Red because, well, I'm an easy sell for dinosaurs and dragons. So the first DIMM I had was the Greymon themed one. I got 6 themed DIMMs as well, and I'll get more into those as we go, but know that they're broadly themed around fire, ice, oceans, machines, deserts, and jungles. Now, each DIMM only has a small selection of Digimon on it, about 15 to 18 total each, with some having more and some having less. If you're spoiled from the Pendulum series or the 20th anniversary Digivice, this might come off as a bit underwhelming, and I would fully understand why you might feel that way. This gotta buy 'em all attitude gets a little worse when you know that these DIMMs have DRM too. Once used, they become locked to a singular vital bracelet. The trade-off here is they can be used an infinite number of times with their paired unit, but seriously, Bandai, this is super lame and probably discouraged a lot of people who might have gotten a watch otherwise. Anyway, I saved this one for last just for the sake of the footage of this video, so I'm going to slot this desert-themed DIMM in and watch it and give it a few seconds because it always takes a minute. Bam, Digi-Egg. Now, with very few exceptions, the first few phases of the Digimon's lifespan are basically predetermined. Fresh, training, and more often than not, rookie-level forms are predetermined from the moment the dim is inserted. There's just no other options. On the one hand, I kind of like the dims, at least conceptually. The whole reusable inserted media creating Digimon feels very Digimon as a concept, if that makes any sense. It's very techy. It feels like some kind of logical evolution from other digital media, discs, CDs, USB drives, and so on, and that adds a certain something to the whole experience. On the other hand, it creates a medium that is generally terrible to give to kids. I, as a grown man, have to keep these things in a box to not lose them. How will a kid, the primary demographic, handle them? Losing these things means losing your Digimon families, and these things are all sold separately, and since the DIM only needs to be inserted when an egg is being made, that means it'll be easy to misplace them, and due to the DRM, there's not going to be a second-hand market, so Bandai can artificially keep prices high. I'm torn on this, but generally feel this just needs to be axed from future Digivices. Digimon should just be in the Digivice already, and while novel, this gimmick just raises far too many questions for my liking, especially for the demographic they're shooting for. Okay, let's talk about the Digimon themselves. Accepting their earliest forms, which again are preset, Digimon will use 4 criteria to determine what forms they will eventually digivolve into. Those are trophies, or PP, number of battles fought, percentage of battles won overall, and their power number. If this sounds like I just said a whole bunch of nonsense, you're not too far off. So let's start with the trophy/PP thing. These are gained by doing the missions found on the watch. Normal missions, which range from taking a certain number of steps in a day or simply by wearing the watch and failing to die at the same time, or put another way, it pretends to track your pulse, and if you keep having one, you'll sometimes just get a freebie trophy that day. Normal missions are rarely complicated, and you'll usually achieve them purely by accident. Next is the quote-unquote hard missions, which in order are squats, crunches, punching, and sprinting, either for bursts of 20 or 30 seconds each. You can do these once per day for a guaranteed trophy, and sometimes, maybe at random, it will give you 2 for a quote-unquote great performance. You can game the system by just flailing your arm around. It literally can't tell the difference. I actually find that I tend to get more greats by flailing than actually performing the activity. But, and this one's a mighty big but here, you can't grind them. These reset daily, so the max trophies you can earn in one day is just 9, assuming everything goes perfectly. For an exercise-based fitness watch, this seems like kind of a bad plan, especially as time between forms is relatively short. There's also a thing marked special missions, but just ignore those. That functionality was tied to an app that no longer exists, and there is literally no way to do these anymore. Lastly, there's the adventure missions, and I swear this is the worst and most pointless feature of this entire watch. You activate this, and the Digimon is locked into a pedometer-only mode until you cancel out. And after enough steps, it fights a boss fight. Win, and you get to do this more. Lose, and you just restart the level you were on, making all the steps taken towards it a waste of everyone's time. There's 15 levels of this nonsense, and some megaforms are locked behind its completion, and said completion is tied to the individual Digimon in question. This is a huge, tedious slog, and since it's another equally huge, tedious slog to lock your Digimon into a state where it meets absolutely no Digivolution requirements, all while having the power level necessary to complete this 15-stage exercise in masochism, they really should have just not put this in the device at all on account that it sucks, and I hate it. If your Digimon meets any prereq for any possible form, it will take it when time runs out regardless as to whether you want it or not. On the other hand, the Digimon stats, wins, win record, and trophies are all reset upon digivolving. You could theoretically just not do anything but walk with the Digimon until you could complete this, but seriously, why? This is a waste of everyone's time. Anyway, that nightmare aside, the Digimon have stats, but you're free to completely ignore them as they're irrelevant. The only number you need to keep tabs on is your power gauge, which fills up while it walks around with you, and this number is all that really matters when it comes to Digimon battles. As mentioned, this watch has an NFC functionality, and I don't know about you, but this was a huge misstep for the nature of the device. The only NFC thing I have is my phone, a feature I had to toggle on to use, by the way, and literally nothing else. Maybe if you live in downtown Tokyo, this kind of thing might be easier to come by, but NFC as a technology really isn't ubiquitous, at least not everywhere. Maybe phones and some printers, but seriously, why go for NFC of all things? Anyway, wake up the phone, tap it, watch the battle ensue, and yeah, gotta complain again. Battles are purely luck-based, influenced only a little by your power level, and all the enemy Digimon you encounter are Digimon that exist in the same dim as yours. But they'll either be the same level or one step in either direction. Since other forms require 10 or more battles, you're just going to be tapping your phone to the watch over and over again and grind them out. The enemy variety is, frankly, abysmal. The simple, elegant, built-in battle chain of the 20th anniversary Digivice was a much better solution, and it helped players navigate to some easy wins if they needed to fudge the percentages a bit. But here, it's all just luck. Sometimes my champion-level Digimon gets taken down by a rookie just because of bad RNG, and other times they topple ultimate-level Digimon all for the same reason. There's no tension, just a lot of eye-rolling and sighing, and worst of all, there's no skip animation function. These battles have to play out till one Digimon wins or a certain number of turns are taken. I just don't like it. Also, there's some kind of versus data dim, and I read the manual and I still don't really understand how it works, but I'm the only idiot in Snekberg who owns one of these things, so it wouldn't matter even if I did. Otherwise, you walk around and their power number gradually ticks up till it caps, limited by the level they're at and maxing out at 9,999 once they're at the mega level. Oh, right. I should mention Digimon will die of old age eventually. Megas can last for a while, but don't over-rely on this fact, or they'll go back to their Digi-Egg, effectively undoing any progress made up to that point. Useful, maybe, if you're unsatisfied with the end result, but there is a better use for fully grown Digimon anyway, and I'll get to that here in just a sec. Digimon only die otherwise if they're overextended while injured, or if left without the watch being worn for 24 hours or more while left awake and active. Last point, the watch has 2 slots for Digimon, an active slot and a storage slot. This facilitates Jogress/DNA digivolving, though it comes with a bit of a twist. When they undergo DNA digivolving, you don't lose the Digimon that's in storage. However, you should know that prompts for DNA digivolving will overrule all other conditions. So if it's not a form you want, it might be better to keep the storage empty and raise just one Digimon at a time. Okay, I think that covers the broad strokes. Lastly, there is a companion app, the Vital Bracelet Arena, which can serve as an off-watch Digimon storage. You can even send Digimon you raised out on adventures to collect items for you. Items here coming in 2 flavors. One that will just raise your power stat number, and one that will shorten the time till their next Digivolution. This is neat particularly if you're impatient or just want to display your Digimon in kind of a neat little fashion. You'll yield optimal results if you send 4 mega-level Digimon out on an adventure for a 24-hour period. The math behind this does seem to be preset, as I've never seen variations excepting by Digimon level and the time duration chosen. It should be noted that Digimon in the app can be sent back to the watch, but it requires using the DIM again when you do so. This process is clunky and not particularly user-friendly. They really could have done this in a way that wasn't so frustrating, or maybe at least didn't necessitate having the DIM on hand to facilitate it. The app also comes preloaded with a useless Agumon and a Greymon, but it doesn't seem like you can do anything with them. You can't send them on adventures, you can't delete them, and you can't send them to the watch. Believe me, I tried. So, once I was able to just bench them into storage and never see them again, I did. And yeah, that's basically the app. That's all it does. Alright, that being said, let's get down to brass tacks. Is it worth your while? Well, you gotta understand, when these things first launched a couple years back, they commanded a price point of 70 to 80 USD. And each DIM card set, which is 2 cards each, were $15 each, and more if you got an import. And to be quite frank, if I had spent 70 or 80 bucks on this thing, and then 15 for each 2 of the cards seen here, yeah, I would feel super ripped off. There's not many Digimon, not much functionality, and honestly, there's just not a lot happening here. It's a very low-maintenance V-Life experience, as you don't feed or clean up after the Digimon, and it's not a very sound replacement for other exercise-based watches or smart devices. Several of the DIM cards and watch types had store exclusivity for a while too, so finding them was a chore. I believe the Greymon Red one, for example, was a Walmart exclusive for quite a while. But I suppose the point I'm making is, I didn't pay $80 for this. I paid less than $15 for the watch, and then less than $5 each for each set of two cards. In total, you're looking at a set of stuff that ran me less than $30 all told. And yeah, my watch in particular has taken some nicks and dings. I mean, screen protectors are like $6. I'll take my chances. You've heard me rag on this an awful lot, so maybe you might be surprised when I say, on the whole, I like it. Yeah, altogether, it's a very simple, low-effort V-Life Digivice with some customization available, with a simple pedometer built in. I can wear it when I'm at work, and nobody thinks twice. It won't ping me during a meeting to clean up Digipoo, and it won't starve if I have a long, busy day. And while I don't love how battles work, it's functional enough that I've mostly gotten the Digimon forms I've wanted thus far with only a quick glance at a guide for reference as to what each requires. And when I don't feel like playing with it, I can just leave it empty or keep the Digimon asleep and return to it when I'm good and ready. If you like Digimon and or need a watch, for the price point it's at now, I'd say it's worth it. For younger fans, the 20th anniversary Digivice is a much better V-Life toy, and an actual smartwatch might suit the actually health-conscious among us quite a bit better. Otherwise, it's a fine distraction, something to check in on over the course of a day, and use it to incentivize a little extra movement in the otherwise idle cubicle dweller's day. On the whole, I'd say check it out. This has been the Digisnek, bringing to you a Snek Tech review whereupon I didn't want to break it apart with a screwdriver this time. Hope you enjoyed. Please do that lovely like, comment, subscribe combo if you haven't already, and do tell. Was I being fair? Did you learn something today? Let me know down below. And join me here for more Let's Plays, reviews, specials, and more. And I'll see you there. Yes. Thank you, buddy. Let's make a... Stop.